A life that's beyond ordinary, beyond average. Hello everybody, this is Michael Charles from leadingwithintent.com. I am so excited to be here with you today and to be sharing some thoughts with you. In this series I call Mastering the Basic, and that's based on the premise that most successful people master the basics of life, and from then they develop the discipline to become successful. And when you think about it, really, the basics of life, once mastered, gives you a life that's beyond ordinary, right? It gives you a life that's beyond average. I mean, most people, the problem is when they see the basics of life and then when they know them, for the most part, but it's not in their awareness for most of their day. Most of them go through life on automatic pilot. And so my hope and goal in this series is to help you become more aware of these basics of life and challenge you and give you some tips and strategies on how you can practice them in order to become the person you dream of becoming and doing the things that you dream of doing. So in this series, the first thing I'd like to cover with you, and I think this is very, very important that we do this as the first video, and that is purpose. Discovering your purpose. I know there's a lot of things out there to read to help you discover your purpose, but I want to quickly share a few thoughts with you on how to discover your purpose. And I will do so through 5 questions. And my hope is by the time we're done, you'll have something that will help you think a little bit more about your purpose in life and go about applying it to everything you do. Because think about it this way. When you know your purpose, everything is filtered through that purpose. And because of that, you end up doing the most important things in your life. And so I want to share this with you. And really, as I go through it, I want you to think through your life and think about how you may be able to apply this in your life. But as I start, I want to share this with you because most people in life goes through life asking themselves these 3 questions, right? And the first one is of identity, right? They want to know who they are, right? They say, who am I? That's the first question they ask themselves. Who am I as a person? Most of us, we grow up, we really don't take the time to really think through and understand who we are and whose we are. And I did share some thoughts on that in the very first video I did a few weeks ago when I started posting live. The second question most people wrestle with again is importance, right? That's, do I matter? Am I important? Do I matter to somebody? Do I matter to anyone at all in this life? And the third question is, what is my place in life, right? Essentially is, what's the impact? Most people struggle through these 3 questions, and the main reason for that is because they do not know their purpose and they do not live it out. I'm doing my best to live out my purpose every day, and if anything comes through, I try to filter it through my purpose. When people bring me business opportunities, as a matter of fact, many people have brought me business opportunities, and I said, I'm sorry, no, that doesn't align with my purpose. And so I filter some of the opportunities that comes to me based on what I believe my purpose is. And your purpose may be, most people think it's set, but once you find it out, it may get refined as you go through it. So we'll cover that in a little bit. But as I said, most people go through life living, just simply existing, really. And when you don't know your purpose, then you tend not to understand what it means to live on purpose and to live an intentional life. And so I'm going to share these 5 questions with you, which I believe are essential questions that really you must answer and master in order for you to discover your purpose and actually live out your purpose. It's really going to determine what you are and what you aren't going to do, as I said. So here you go. Here's the first question that I'd like you to think through as we go through this series to try to understand and live your purpose, and these questions to address them and help you discover your own purpose in life. So as I go through this, I'm going through here just to make sure videos coming through properly. But so the first question is this: what would be the center of my life? Right? Most people, as I said, go through life not knowing what they should devote their time to. And it's really, really important to be able to do that, because once you know your purpose, then you can give time to the things that matter most. And so most people, they spend a lot of time on entertainment. Maybe that's what their calling is, to entertain people and bring joy to their lives. And some people spend their time on serving others. And for some people, that's what their call is. Their calling is around service to others. Some people invent things, and some people just start businesses and help people better their businesses. And so that's some ideas and some things that to think for as you answer that question. Right? What would be the center of my life? And it doesn't have to be one thing. And that's what most people don't understand. It could be one thing, though, that spans across all of these 4 or 5 things I mentioned, and maybe more. We have 7 streams of influence, and it could be something that spans through 4 or 5 of those streams of influence. The second question I'd like for you to consider as you try to discover your purpose, as you go on this journey to discover your purpose, is what will be the character of my life? What will you stand for? When people get to positions, what they know and how they portray themselves, get them to that position, but their character really is what keeps them there. Now, that's a very temporary statement, but when you think through life from beginning to end, what would people say this person was when they think of their character? Who are you really? How would people think of you? Are you a person of integrity? Are you a person that people can count on? Things like that. And so let me go on to the third question to help in that exercise of trying to figure out what your purpose is. And the third question is, what will be the contribution of my life? A lot of people, they go through life and not even think of the contribution they'll make. And remember those 3 questions, those 3 things I spoke about earlier? 3 things that most people struggle with. It's, do I matter? What's my identity? Essentially, what will I count for? And so these are questions that we must answer in order for us to be able to address these things. Again, I'm sharing these to help you think through what your purpose is and how you will show up. Because I say this all the time. It's all about how you show up. And so the next question I want to ask you is, what will be the communication of my life? The message of your life? When people think of your life, is there one message? They'll say, you know what? This person's life was about this or that. What's that message? What do you want that message to be? One of the blog posts I wrote a while back, I believe, maybe a couple of years, is if you were to pass and you had an opportunity to stand in the back of the room when they were having your funeral, what would you want to have heard? Right? What would you want what would you want people to be saying about you? The message of your life, right? Living your life, what would that mean? When people see and think of you, what message comes to mind? Figuring that out will help you figure your purpose. And number 5 is, what will be the community of my life? That's question number 5. What will be the community of my life? This could be the association, the different organizations you belong to, maybe the church you go to. It could be, who do you keep around you? We have this saying in the personal development world that says OQP, only quality people. And the question is really, who do you hang around? Who do you hang with? because the people you're hanging with has a lot to do with your success. You've heard this said before, that we are the average of our 5 closest friends. So if you don't like where you are right now, you might want to try to get into some other circles. And they usually say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. So what will be the community of my life? I'll share this story with you. And I think this is a friend shared this with me yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I thought maybe I'll share that with you. And when he said that, I'm like, that's really interesting. Most people don't think of it that way. And it may have a religious bent to it, but hang with me for a second. And when he said that, it just hit me. Most people, at least that's a different way to think through this whole process. He said, look, I must count for something. My life must mean something. What is it that I was put on this earth to do? At the end of my life, what is it that I will be known for? What impact would I have had on somebody's life? And he thought, when God called Moses to service, he asked Moses, what do you have in your hand? And Moses said he had a rod, a staff in his hand. And so God says, then that's what you're going to use. And so he thought, well, what do I have in my hand? And he thought deeply about that and thought, hey, I have a wonderful relationship. And so he said, why don't I use that to help other people develop better relationships with their significant others? And I'm like, wow, what a wonderful way to think through this. If you don't want to go through all these 5 questions, think about it this way. What talent do you have? What rod do you have in your hand, or what staff do you have in your hand that you can use to help somebody else, to be of service, to contribute, or to make your life matter? When you think through that, I mean, just one question. And there you go. Yeah, these are 5 questions. They'll help you put things together. But I'm like, with one question, you could actually do that if you give it some thought. And so when you think through this, right, what are you gifted with? What are you talented with? I mean, a lot of people sometimes when you say talent, yes, talent takes work to develop into extraordinary talent. But you have something that comes easy to you. Think through that. Maybe there is something you can do with that talent, with that skill, that can help somebody else, or maybe create a whole new world for new people, just like Steve Jobs did with Apple, Mac, and iPhones. Every one of us have something inside of us, some creative being that's just itching to create something meaningful and wonderful. So let's tap into that. Because as I said in some of the videos before, if you've been following me for a while, is we are creative beings. And so when we understand our gifts and our talent, we can use it to better somebody else's life, or do something meaningful for people, or maybe just create something that changes the world. But see, once you know your purpose, though, you'll have a really focused vision of what you know you must do and what you have to do. And you can use that to filter different things that come to you, different opportunities, and sometimes different requests that you get to do things here and there, because you will be focused and you will want to build that vision that you have based on this purpose that you have. And so I'm asking you today to consider that. Consider what your purpose is in life and how you can figure that out. And actually go on the journey to figure it out. Whatever talent you may have, or whatever staff, as my friend used this analogy, that you may have in your hand, you can use that to figure out what your purpose is. And as I said, it doesn't have to be one thing and you're locked in. You figure it out, what you think it is right now, you go based on that, then as you grow and become better and your vision expands and your horizon expands, then you start seeing things that only could come to you as you take the next step. And so I'll leave you with this quote that I came up with. And I think when most people don't really know what their purpose is, they waste their life away in meaningless activities. And usually activities that brings no value to them or anyone else, really. And so this quote, I came up with it as I was going through and preparing a lesson for some folks on my intentional leadership mastery program. And so it says, discover your purpose, develop your mission, because if you don't know how you're going to measure your life at the end, you cannot live intentionally. And as you know, my whole blog is about leading with intent, leading yourself and others with intent. When we talk about leadership, people think it's just leading other people, but you first have to lead yourself. And when you do that with intention, you do that with a purpose, then you can organize the world around you with purpose and make an impact. So you will have answered those 3 questions from earlier, where we ask, who am I? Do I matter? And what is my place in life? What is my contribution? And it's really those 3 things: identity, importance, and impact. So until next time, my friend, have a wonderful night. Take care.